This is kind of the opening of the cafe. We always do this on the first Friday after classes begin, but it's also the dedication of the cafe under a new name, the Terry Freitas Cafe. And I'd like to just take a few minutes to explain to you why we've changed the name from Cafe Revolucion and why the spirit of Cafe Revolucion lives on even though the name has been changed to the Terry Freitas Cafe. There's lots of information about Terry in that display cabinet and also up there, and I encourage you to look at that. But essentially, Terry Freitas was a UCSC alum. He graduated in 1997. He was a joint biology and environmental studies major from Southern California. And while he was a student even before, was incredibly interested and drawn to the struggles for the rights of indigenous peoples in the Americas. And while he was still a UCSC student, became aware of an indigenous people in Colombia called the UA, who were fighting against Occidental Petroleum from drilling oil in their lands. And at that point, they were all threatening to basically jointly commit suicide by jumping over a cliff if the land was excavated in the way that Occidental Petroleum planned. When he graduated, Terry worked with others and formed the UA Solidarity Network and became instrumental in raising people's awareness in the United States about the struggle in Colombia, and also was really kind of adopted by the UA. He was incredibly sensitive to culturally sensitive to them and what it meant to work in solidarity with them and not speak with them. He traveled with one of the UA leaders extensively in the United States. And really brought attention to indigenous people's rights in general, but particularly this struggle in Colombia against mining rights of foreign companies. In 1999, he went down several times. He had been threatened before. He knew what the risks were in going to Colombia, which at that point was an incredibly dangerous place for a number of reasons. It still is in some parts of the country. And he was there in 1999 with two women indigenous leaders from the United States, one from Hawaii and one from New York. And they were asked by the UA to come to help build a school that would be culturally sensitive for their community. When they were leaving, they were kidnapped by, it's not clear exactly what happened, but by representatives of the FARC, which is the Armed Revolutionary Group in Colombia, who started out, and I work in Latin America, as representing the poor and the downtrodden in Colombia, and ultimately many became essentially working with drug traffickers. And they were kidnapped and ultimately killed, and their bodies were found in Venezuela. He was 24 years old. And in his short life, he did an amazing amount. And ultimately, his work and those who continue to do his work preserved the UA territory against oil drilling. Occidental Petroleum and then Shell Oil essentially were forced out of the area, and the UA still controlled the rights to their land, although it's an ongoing struggle, and the UA Solidarity Network that he helped form continues to work to preserve the rights of the UA and other indigenous peoples. Terry's grandmother, many years ago, and this is a woman who's now in her late 80s, wanted to do something to honor her grandson and to honor the work of her grandson. And she visited various places on campus. He was a Crown student, actually. He was a student here before colleges 9 and 10 even existed. And she came to Cafe Rev. And she said, this place embodies what Terry was about, right? Social justice, international solidarity, students taking control and doing their own programming and controlling their own space. And so, you know, she saw this many years ago and then came back and we started discussions with her last year, and she gave a generous endowment, in fact, the very first endowment to colleges 9 and 10, so that we can name the cafe after Terry Freitas. And so what her endowment allows us to do is not only to honor Terry and all of those who do that work. I mean, she and the family did not want to make him a martyr. And they want this to be kind of a place of inspiration for people who want to continue the rights, to the struggle for social justice here and elsewhere. But it also gives us resources to make sure that Cafe Rev stays open, you know, the Terry Freitas Cafe. It allows us to kind of do a little upgrading, so those of you who are returning will see we have a new pool table and some other kind of new things. And possibly even to extend the hours, but also has given the colleges the resources we need to continue the programming that we have around these subjects, to possibly employ people whose hours need to be extended. So these resources mean an awful lot to the colleges, and we hope to devote them to the cafe and to the struggle for social justice that Terry Freitas embodied. So that's why we've renamed the cafe. I think we are all very fortunate to be able to kind of carry on and honor the work of Terry Freitas and what the cafe represented that you're going to be hearing all about today in terms of how this cafe got started. And I'm very glad that some of the founders are here to even share that story. So welcome. This is the opening night of the cafe and the first time that it's open to students as the Terry Freitas Cafe. So thank you, everyone, and we look forward to a really great year.
This, as has been said before this evening, is a student-run place. And by student run, I actually mean student run. I don't walk in here and make all the decisions and, you know, do all the things and whatever, right? It's done by you. So any ideas that you have, please share them with the staff. Become a staff member while you're here, and it's a very fun, creative place to hang out. We also do things like artist spotlights. So if you are a fantastic musician and you have like an hour's worth of material, you can come up and you can do an artist spotlight here, which we highly encourage. We do Italian soda nights and all kinds of really fun, exciting programming. So please come out for all of it. That's what happens here today. And please help us keep the dream alive, not just of programming and getting together in community, but of really the revolution and of really standing up for ourselves, getting to know one another. Just one more thing about Terry Freitas. I was speaking with his mom. We had a little bit of a dedication event with his family, and I was speaking with his mom, and she said that one of her favorite memories or stories of him was the way that he liked to intermingle different cultures through creativity. And he was down and hanging out with the Ua people in Colombia, and they were teaching him their dances. And they were dancing in circles and all these things, and he was enjoying himself, and he was learning a lot. And when they finished their dances, they looked at him and they said, "Okay, your turn." And he was like, "Oh, all right." And he was Jewish, and so he taught them a lot of his own cultural dances as well. And so they shared that together, that experience together. And that is sort of, again, the energy that we want here, right? We want the mixing of cultures and of different peoples and beliefs and ways of living and ways of knowing. So you all bring that. You are the power of that. So I invite you to continually share those types of things here. So welcome.
All right.
I won't hit you.
Okay.
You guys
ready?
Yes.
Well, if I could, I surely would stand on the rock where Moses stood. Pharaoh's army got drowned. Oh, Mary, don't you weep. Oh, Mary, don't you weep no more. Oh, Mary, don't you weep no more. Pharaoh's army got drowned. Yeah. Oh, Mary, don't you weep. Well, Mary was really
that you never even knew you missed. Don't you even try to explain how it's so different when we kiss. You just tell her that the only way her heart will mend is when she learns to love again. And it won't make sense right now, but you're still a friend. And then you let it down easy.
Today is gonna be the day, but they'll never throw it back to you. By now, you should have somehow realized what you got to do. See, I don't believe that anybody feels the way I do about you now. Backbeat, the word is on the street that the fire in your heart is out. I'm sure you've heard it all before, but you never really had a doubt. And I don't believe that anybody feels the way I do about you now.